There we go. Let people in. Hi, Trey and Brady.
Hey Sharon, how are you?
Good, good, good.
John.
Okay, welcome everybody to tonight's Jones Library Building Committee meeting. Please indicate your presence vocally. Sharon,
Here.
George,
Here.
Farah,
Here.
Christine,
Here.
Alex,
Here.
Pam Rooney,
Here.
Paul. You are muted.
My screen went dark. Present.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Here.
Thank you. Thanks to all of you. It's nice to have our friends from Colliers and Bob Parent joining us. Okay, the first item of business is the approval of minutes from May 2nd. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So
Oh.
moved.
I'll second.
Okay, any corrections to the minutes? Okay, Sharon, how do you vote?
Yes.
George,
Approve.
Farah,
Yes,
Farah,
sorry.
Christine,
Yes.
Alex,
Abstain?
Pam,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Jennifer.
Yes.
Thank you all. Paul Bockelman, Town Manager Report.
Oh, just sort of a chronology of since we last met. It's been a while since we met. So we've had the groundbreaking, which was a great event. We've leased new space at 101 University Drive. The library staff did a tremendous job of packing up and relocating. You had the ribbon cutting this morning. We have our OPM active and engaged. Thank you for being here, Trey and Brady. And we have Fontaine Brothers, who is the contractor, getting ready to begin construction. So a lot of progress being made in a short period of time. Now, once we move into construction phase, the sort of tenor of this and the rhythm of this group will change to a monthly update meeting.
So just to be clear, we are already scheduled for a monthly meeting.
Yep.
Number A. Number B, I think it's important to say we did not have a groundbreaking. No ground was broken.
Ceremonial.
We had a ceremony, but not a groundbreaking. And the ribbon cutting, of course, was at University Drive. Okay, any questions for the town manager? Great. Pam, oh, sorry, I didn't see you.
Thank you. I don't know who to pose this question to, but it has to do with the fact that if we're now moving forward, will there be a meeting for the neighbors so that they get updated and a sense of schedule as well?
So
Yeah,
just to be
absolutely.
just to be clear, again, I don't mean to be litigating words. If is not the way to describe this project. No, we are moving forward. So it's not an if, it's we are moving forward. Paul, has there been consultation with the neighbors?
There will be once it's really the conversation has to happen with our contractor who's going to be doing the actual work. So when they are ready to launch, they will clearly have conversations with the neighbors. And I think Bob can even comment about what's in the permit if he wants to, what the conditions are for their work schedule and things like that.
Thanks, Paul. Bob?
Certainly, and one thing I want to say, and I've said this before, but I mean it and I'll stick to it going forward, is my role in this project will be dropping off considerably after tonight's meeting, and Collier's role will be stepping up quite a bit. So
Right.
I may be speaking quite a bit more, or not more, but I'll be speaking up as I have in the past, but I'll be speaking up quite a bit less in the future. And
Okay. Could you answer the
absolutely.
Thank you.
So yes, we have talked to the contractor, one, about the need to meet with property owners. We're still narrowing in on a starting date that I'll talk about in a little bit. And once we have a better understanding of what that is, we absolutely want to set up a meeting with the neighbors, particularly in the North Prospect Street area.
Right.
We have had a face-to-face meeting with the CVS property owners. We had that about a week and a half or so ago. And likewise, we, again, will set up a meeting with the North Prospect Street neighbors. I have seen all the correspondence that has come in from the neighbors and obviously understand their concerns. And I did see the email that came in regarding work hours and limitations and things like that. And the good news is what's already built into the contract is the normal schedule is Monday to Friday. There is no without there's upon special approval, we might have the ability to authorize work on Saturday, but right now the contract doesn't contemplate that, and that would be done on a case-by-case basis. And I know that was one of the big concerns by the neighbors is if they're going to have to deal with noise 5 days a week, they would like to have, some further restrictions on what a Saturday workday might look like. And if and when we get to that point, we'll work to to minimize the impact to neighbors. But right now, it's not part of the contract. So Fontaine has no right to work on Saturdays until such time as we say they could.
Thanks.
Great, thank you.
Alex?
Thanks. I just wanted to offer myself up as a former chair of the outreach committee and somebody who lives on North Prospect Street. If there's a role, sorry, Wendy here. If there's a role for me relative to reaching out to the neighborhood, that I'm happy to play such a role. So just
Thanks.
let me know.
Will do. Okay. Any other questions for the town manager? Okay, we now have a raft of invoices, and what I'm going to ask, Jennifer's going to lead us through them. What I'm going to ask is that there be a motion to approve all of them. And then when that motion is seconded, if there are questions about any particular ones, we can ask the questions that way. So Jennifer.
Okay, thank you. So it looks like the first one is from Pioneer Moving for $72,716.52. There's 2 invoices for Slow Body Development for rent for June and July. They are each $21,078.42. And then there's an invoice for Colliers for $5,269.57. These invoices have already been paid, but just need to be approved to complete the process. The next set of invoices need to be paid and approved. So I have another one for Pioneer Moving for $72,716.52. Colliers for $11,497.43. Rent for Slow Body for August for $21,078.42. And 2 invoices for FAA, one for $5,000 and one for $5,625.
I just want to make sure, Jennifer, on the invoices, hold on one second, please. Is there an invoice from Fontaine?
There was one that Sharon provided, I believe, on Friday, as well as 2 additional invoices from FAA. And I know that they came at you late, Jen, so
Okay, I didn't put those on my list. I apologize. So if they're in the packet, if you want to give me a second, I can find
Sharon sent them separately.
I have what, and Angela did post them to the packet, so they should be there. There's one from FAA for 23,750, another from FAA for 5,000 $161.10, and then one for Fontaine for $387,847.95.
So as I said, what I'd like to do is
Wait.
entertain excuse me, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve and then have it seconded, and then we'll open for discussion and questions.
Point of order. Would
Yes,
it be would it be possible to separate these into two groups? One of those which has already been paid and those that have not been paid yet, so that we can just talk about them in similar terms.
so I don't see there's any difference in the procedure that I'm proposing and the procedure that you are now asking for. So if there's a motion to approve the invoices and it is seconded, we can go through and ask questions about any invoice within the group. So is there a motion to approve the invoices?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, the floor is now open for discussion of any of those invoices. Pam,
Thank you. I do have a question on the Collier's bill for, well, first of all, can somebody explain why some of these bills have already been paid and some of them are coming to this committee for approval? That would be my first question. Let's answer that first.
If you'd like, Austin, I can speak to that.
thank you, Bob.
It is practice we've done infrequently in the past where we had time critical invoices, and we hadn't yet set up a regular meeting schedule. I don't anticipate this practice continuing because we now have a regular meeting schedule that we've made, went to some lengths to align that meeting schedule with what we expect the invoice schedule to be. So the short answer is we had some invoices, particularly the rent invoices, whereas you're familiar with paying rent, you pay in advance typically, that were important to pay in a timely basis, and we had not yet set up a schedule for a meeting of this committee.
Great.
Right.
Oh, okay. Other questions about the invoices? Pam?
Yes, for Colliers, there were invoices. One was up to and including 6/25/2025, and then there was another invoice up through 5/31/2025. The invoice for services rendered through 5/31 included the previous. This is under 0102.0700 construction phase. And there were previous billings of $40,399, which I assume was the amount that was paid out during the bid phase, because I know we dipped into construction services at that point. But so it says to date 45,000, previous 40,399, and so the new bill is $269. Why on the following month does that $45,000 not show up? So there's been, do you see what I'm saying? Is like the total should now be, so there's a bill of $5,269 due as a current invoice. Why does that not show up on the next month as something has already been previously paid? Instead of it being $40,399, it should be including the $5,000 that we're paying now.
So does someone from Colliers want to speak to that, or Jennifer?
I actually see it in the next line. It's the ramp up amendment number 2 that they do note the $5,000. So
So
I take back my question. It was not in the
Great.
same line.
Thank you for that. Okay, other questions about the invoices? Okay, so we're now going to move to the vote on whether we approve these invoices. Sharon,
Yes.
George,
Yes.
Farah,
Yes.
Christine,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
Pam,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
and Austin votes yes. Thank you. Okay, now we get to hear from our OPM. Trey?
So
So
Austin,
actually-
thank you.
I'll let Trey introduce himself and then I'll take the stage back away from him if you don't mind.
So good afternoon, everyone. My name's Trey Logie. I am a project manager here at Colliers Project Leaders. Alongside me is Brady Doyle. Brady, want to introduce yourself?
Hi everyone. Yeah, Brady Doyle here. Working with Trey and Igley as the project manager with Colliers.
Great. Thanks so much. Okay,
We're
Bob,
very excited to be a part of this project, and thank you all very much for having us.
we're thrilled to have you and have already seen the real terrific work that you are doing. So keep it up. No backsliding. Okay, Bob.
Appreciate that.
So I will keep to what I said before. Next month, I will be much more quiet than I am today. So today, there's a lot of history, as you all know, that I'm in a better position to respond to than Trey and Brady are right now. So the first item I put on the OPM report was to give everybody an update of where we stand with HUD right now. As you're aware, we have a $1.1 million grant that the library has been awarded from HUD. The last piece of that has been making it all the way through the environmental review process. We had to get through the Section 106 historic preservation process first, and then we could complete the environmental review process. We did that. We submitted all the required information, the environmental assessment, all the backup information for the environmental assessment. We had a conversation with HUD staff. It was about a month ago now, myself, Sharon, and Ginny at that point, and the response at that point was very positive that they were basically ready to approve the project. They requested some additional backup information. They went away for about a week and a half, and then requested some additional information, including an update on the environmental assessment information, which is basically taking a look at what contamination sites might be around the town or near the project and things like that. And because that work had been done more than 18 months ago, we had to update that information and get that into HUD. We did that. We have talked to their environmental folks. They said we are 100% done with the environmental piece. And we have then talked with the Congressional Grants Director, basically the individual that runs the Congressional Grants Program. And he's indicated that he has a letter written that's ready to sign, and he's just confirming basically who's going to sign that letter, whether it's going to be himself or another representative of HUD. And I had that conversation as recent as Friday. I followed up with a phone message to him today. He didn't today. He gave me a cell phone number, so he's doing everything he can to stay in contact, but I haven't heard back from him as of today. But we expect it to be imminent.
Great.
The next item, as you might recall, because of the change in the roof material from artificial slate to natural slate, the AG's office indicated we had to go back out to bid for the roofing portion of the project. We have done that, and I know there was a question as to how it appears in bid docs. Bid docs is hosting the information, so if you get online and look up the Jones Library, you can see the documents. But once they close out a bidding process through the general contractor award, they can't reopen it. So they're hosting the information, and we will be receiving paper copy bids tomorrow at 2 p.m. So the actual bidding pipeline process is not the electronic process that we followed up through the award to the general contractor. Just because of the quirks of the way their system is, we have to receive a hard copy bid. So we are receiving those bids tomorrow afternoon at 2 p.m. and we'll report back very quickly once those results come in.
Terrific.
And that leads into the next item that I had here is budget update. Our budget is effectively where it had been the last time we reported on it. We've made some tweaks generally in a positive way. Some of the assumptions I've made before were actually a little bit overly conservative in terms of Let's see, moving costs were about where we estimated. The lease cost is actually a little bit less. But what I didn't want to do was to give this board a document that was going to change tomorrow, because it will change tomorrow once the bids come in with the roofing sub bid. So
Mhm.
I'd prefer to give this committee the most up-to-date, complete, and probably most significant adjustment to that budget that we'll make in some time based on the results of the roofing bid. So we'll receive that information, we'll review it, and probably a couple of days after that, we'll be in a good position to then release an updated budget.
Right. I see a question. Pam?
Thank you. So Bob, can you remind me the moving costs, the lease costs were all budgeted for? These are not items that are coming out of contingency, correct?
That is correct. They are all in the budget, and yes, they were all, once you actually bid them out, you know what the real cost is, but we were pretty close in all of them. So it's good news.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Pam. Bob, one other thing on the agenda there.
So construction mobilization. So that's really what everybody wants to hear about. When are we going to start construction on this project? And we have asked Fontaine. Fontaine is ready to go. They would be out there working today if we had given them the go-ahead to work today. We have asked them to hold off mobilizing for another week because we want to get 100% through the HUD grant process so we don't put those funds at risk. So if everything goes as I hope it to go, they'll be on site next week. But I won't have that definitive until we get the firm word from HUD, and we'll keep everybody up to date if there's any changes from that. What does that mean? It means, and we've had conversations, and Trey and Brady have been involved in these, that the first thing that Fontaine is going to focus on is tree removal. You effectively, have to move things out of the way before you can start putting things in place, like fences and things like that. So they'll be spending probably a week removing trees, and then they'll be spending the next week setting up things like construction fencing and job trailers and things like that. So that's what the first couple of weeks look like. I do want to make one, fill everybody in on the tree removal issue, just because you'll see something that may or may not surprise you, which is as a result of one Fontaine's arborist, they were required to hire an independent arborist approved by the town to come in and assess the trees that we were planning to retain, and how to best manage those trees and care for them during the construction, in consultation with the arborist that the Amherst Historic Society has hired. It's been determined that the Norway spruce, which is that large spruce towards the front of the Amherst Historic property, is a relatively unsafe tree. If you look at the trunk, it looks great from a distance, but if you look about 40 feet up in the air, the trunk branches from a single stem to multiple stems, 3 or 4 stems, that make that tree inherently much weaker at that point, and much more likely that one or more of those stems could split off and either drop to the ground and impact the Historic Society property, or drop to the ground and impact the library property at some future date. So we had some conversations, and the conversation was, well, if Fontaine was willing to remove that tree, would they be willing to remove that tree at no cost? And they actually have agreed to remove that tree at no cost, because it does simplify their logistics as well, and reduces, some of the tree protection they have to do. That the most critical tree is the sycamore. That's the one. But the good news is the sycamore is a long way away from the easement where Fontaine is going to be working. So partly as a show of good faith, and partly to help facilitate their construction, Fontaine has agreed to take that Norway spruce down at no cost to the Historic Society, or no cost to the town or the project. They were also requested by the Historic Society. They have a second spruce tree located right between their front door and North Prospect Street, located right in the tree belt that puts that building at risk. It's right up tight to the building, and they've been advised that tree should come down. And likewise, Fontaine has agreed to take that tree down at no cost to the Historic Society. So we're building a good relationship with the Historic Society to help them out, and they're willing to be flexible with us and Fontaine as well. So you'll see that happening in the next, hopefully starting next week. I think you're muted, Austin.
Well, you missed my best points. I was simply saying that when you said we're building, we already have one, and we're glad that we're continuing to work together. Pam.
Thank you. I had some questions about the 106 that Bob, section 106 that Bob just mentioned, and I don't know when will be the appropriate time to ask those questions.
So why don't you just hold off on those questions for 1 second? Are there any other questions about anything that Bob has talked about? Okay, and oh, Alex, sorry.
Yeah, I appreciate the information on the timing about the trees being the first thing and then the construction. Do we have a sense of timing in terms of when we'd need to meet with the neighbors in terms of when, I mean, tree work happens in the neighborhood all the time. That's a normal thing, but at what point, like, do we have a timeline for when we think we need to start talking to people and when actual work that is atypical for the neighborhood might start?
Bob, you're muted.
We would like to do that most likely in the next, realistically, in the next week or two. You know, we're getting very close to the starting point. So now is the time to really make that meeting happen. And Fontaine, you know, has their superintendent lined up, a gentleman named Carl, who's been on site quite a bit of the time, has set up a temporary office inside of the library, and Stan, who's their project manager, is very involved. So I think we're right at that point where we need to start coordinating that meeting.
Great.
So can I follow up, Austin?
Sure.
So Bob, who's making that happen? Is that involve this committee at all, or is there someone who's making that happen, or how does
Why don't
that
we do
work?
why don't we do the following? Alex, why don't you consult with Bob if you want to be involved, you know, it would be Bob, it would be the general contractor. If you would like to be involved, be involved.
I don't need to be involved. I just didn't know what the process was. That
Yeah.
was all. I was just
So
trying to understand the
I'm
process.
suggesting that you might want to be involved, as you said you were the.
Happy to. I was
Great.
just trying to understand the process.
Thank you. Bob, do you want to say more about the process?
You know, certainly several of the residents have reached out to the town already, so we know at least some of the people that are concerned. And the question would be, and I think it's a great offer from Alex, of, you know, how to best facilitate getting the people, you know, together as a group and making certain we don't leave anybody out, because we don't want to be, you know, meeting with 1 or 2 people that have spoken up and find out that there's somebody that wanted to be included that hadn't been included. So yeah, if you don't mind, I think between myself and Trey, we'll reach out to Alex and get the general contractor involved, because they're the ones that make the commitment. We're not doing the work, they're doing the work, and we're, you know, keeping an eye on what they need to do, how they do it, and what commitments they need to make.
Okay. Paul, has the town ever consulted with neighborhoods about things that have happened in the town?
Yeah, so for the school building project, the OPM, or I think the OPM went door to door, went and talked individually with the neighboring property owners, and listened to any of the concerns that they had. I think that's how we handled it there. So it really, this falls on the managing the project, which is the OPM's job. That's why we're paying them.
Right. Okay, any other questions before we go back to Pam? All right, Pam, thank you for waiting.
You're welcome. So these are questions that focus on the section 106. I'm really glad that we're nearly through that. Where do we find the final MOA and all the stipulations that are required for us to, the hoops that we have to jump through? That's one question. Is there an official walkthrough? I'm basically thinking of the products that were required of us as we push through this project. What products are we supposed to produce and prepare and provide the public.
Pam, could you just hold off? Let's do those two and
Okay.
then more.
Okay.
So Bob, do you want to say anything?
Yep, certainly the final MOA has been shared with all the consulting parties. So everybody that was a consulting party
Okay.
received a copy of that and was invited to endorse it. They're not a participating member. They don't have a role in the process, but they were invited to basically endorse it, or if they chose not to endorse it, not to endorse it. So the consulting parties have the document already. If
Okay.
you'd like me to send you a copy, I can email you a copy. It's a public
That'd be
document.
lovely. Great, thank you.
Okay,
And you're
Pam's
correct.
second question. Bob?
That document is what calls out the commitments that the town and the library have made to Mass Historic. And generally what those commitments, pre-construction commitments, involve is documentation of what's there. And before you take something, before we demolish anything, making certain that we document everything that's there, and then produce a document that becomes available to the public, becomes part of the library program presentation in the future. So that's available for anyone that wants to see that. That document's already in the works. Ginny Adams, who was our historic preservationist in the 106 process, has been working with Catherine Whitcomb at the library, the archivist, to put that document together. I've seen a draft of that document. It's close to being final. All the data collection is done. It's strictly a matter of cleaning it up and formatting and presentation like that they're working on right now. So, the activities that have to happen prior to demolition have happened, and now it's just fine tuning how that's going to be put out for the public to be able to see and benefit from.
Bob, let's make sure that document is distributed to the committee before
Yeah.
the August meeting.
Okay.
Okay, Pam?
Yeah, that would be great. Is there anybody, so much of it centered on the historical aspects of things, is there a formal role for the Amherst Historical Commission itself? And are there any steps that they or interested public like me, because I would really like to participate in a walkthrough as that evaluation of woodwork, because that was one of the big sticking points. Is there an evaluation of the woodwork within the building, and just walk this group through and say, this is good, this is good, go ahead, remove this? Will that happen?
So from that standpoint, that you're correctly identified. The woodwork was a big feature of what the library and the town have agreed to, and what we've agreed to. There are a couple of components of that. We've agreed to retain a significant amount of the woodwork in place. About 80% of that woodwork stays untouched, other than being touched up and refinished. The woodwork that has to be removed to accommodate the renovations and expansion of the library, we have committed that none of that woodwork will be thrown in a dumpster. Some portions of that will be repurposed within the library, and the portions that can't be repurposed within the library, we will work with the contractor, because it technically is their material. Any material that is removed from the building as part of the demolition is salvage material. And unless we said, we did, for instance, like with the Whipple window and the chandelier and a couple of our other items, where we said that we want to retain that as library property, the other material is effectively property of Fontaine. But we've already started discussions with them of effectively matchmaking between them and prospective reusers of woodwork. There's
Bob, may I just interrupt you one sec? So supervising the project, making sure that what we've agreed to is done, is, as I understand it, responsibility of the OPM. Is that their first responsibility?
They will be assisting the town with that, correct? Yes.
Right. So making sure that the woodwork that we've said is going to be removed and refinished and kept, and that's already part of the construction process, right? That's what we have an OPM and a general contractor to do.
Correct. And maybe I'll tell you what, Trey, so I don't do all the talking. Let me, let you jump in there
I
from.
just want to be clear because Pam asked a very good question, but I want to make sure we don't need another process beyond what we already have.
We.
I'm
absolutely,
gonna
we
weigh, I'm
don't-
gonna weigh in on that because this was such a sticking point. And because that's what raised the attention of so many people in town. It seems that it would be such a goodwill gesture to, invite the Amherst Historical or any of the consulting parties that want to participate and walk through that building saying this goes, so that people have no fear that there's, something sliding out the back door unbeknownst to all of us. It's a goodwill gesture.
I think I think I really appreciate it. I do. I think that's great. We have a process. We have laid out what we want people to do. And we have an OPM whose job it is to work with the general contractor to make sure it gets done. So the building is, in a few days going to be turned over to the general contractor. So I'm just not sure what the process is. And then what happens? Someone sees something, they say, "Oh, I don't like this," and then what? So let's talk about it, Pam, because we certainly want to make sure that what we've said is going to be done is going to be done.
If you
Alex?
don't mind, Austin, let me jump in because likewise, we expected this to be an area where there'd be a lot of interest. And anticipating that, we're actually already taken some steps, I think, to accomplish the same thing that Pam is looking to accomplish. We have reached out. There's a gentleman who lives in Shutesbury. His name is Stephen Smolsky. Stephen has spent 40 years in the wood science business. He originally taught as part of the wood science program at UMass and then went out on his own, basically doing exactly this type of work as a private consultant. And when I reached out to folks in the area and I said, who's the guy that can look at materials and say, this is Philippine mahogany, he's the guy beyond
Right.
reproach. Trey and I and the contractor can probably get it right 95% of the time, but we wanted to make certain that we got it right all the way with somebody whose resume would speak to being an expert in this area. So Stephen is retired now. But he has volunteered his time and his services to help us out.
Right.
To make certain that we properly identify, and I'm certainly willing to share his resume if you have any questions. We're make certain that we properly identify all the woodwork before anything gets thrown out.
Alex?
Thanks. And Bob, thank you for that. I appreciate that. And I guess I want to say I understand, Pam, where you're coming from, but at the same time, I feel like that in some senses is the role of this committee, right? Is when we meet with the OPM to check in and to ask the questions that need asking on behalf of the public. And I worry about setting up meetings. I'm really attuned to delays, to cost overruns. And I think anytime you add new processes, people that would not be normally part of a process, we have an MOU that is the commitment between the town, right? That's on behalf of the people of what's been agreed to. So I feel good about having an MOU in place. That's why we have them. And I feel good about the steps that Bob's already talking about. And then I feel good about the fact that we can always ask questions monthly about where things are. And again, that's our role on behalf of the public and concerned parties.
All right, Alex, thank you. Any other comments on the question that Pam has raised?
I will, if you don't mind, I'll jump in. And Carl and me will be tagging all of this wood. So they know which is which is going bye-bye, which is not going bye-bye, that whole situation. I shouldn't say bye-bye, I should say salvage. Excuse me.
Thank you.
So that's going to be a process before any demolition happens. And as the OPM, we won't allow them to commence demolition until we have a clear 100% picture of, yes, that is wood that needs to be salvaged or saved and don't touch it, kind of a thing. So we'll make sure that process goes smoothly with the GC.
Thank you. Okay, other issues, other things. Okay. So again, Trey, and Colliers and Brady, we're really grateful for the work that you've already done and really looking forward to working with you and the general contractor, and we'll be looking for reports and answers to questions as we go forward. And really thank you so much. Okay, next item is item number 6, correspondence. I have no correspondence to report. Topics not anticipated. I have no topics not anticipated. Next is public comment. We have, looks like 9 attendees. No, yeah, 9 attendees. If any wishes to make a public comment, if they'd raise their hand, virtual hand. Okay, we have one. Maria, please bring Maria Kopicki into the Zoom.
Yep, Maria Kopicki, South Amherst. Really hope that the members of this committee find your voice and start asking questions. You just approved a bunch of invoices that got paid because you didn't meet since January. That's unacceptable. There was no reason for that. There was no emergency for that. You guys should have been meeting since January, and no invoices should have been paid without your authorization because that's in your charge. So let's get on the ball there. I really wish some of you guys would watch this elementary school building committee and see how those meetings are conducted. None of these invoices went on screen. There was no description. You just paid Fontaine Brothers nearly $400,000 with literally no description, and nobody cared to ask and describe what was going on. The OPMs in the school building committee process go through this in detail so you and the public know exactly what is happening. Please do that. You should be getting the contract from Colliers. That amount increased. Your soft costs have gone up, and you should know what's in that contract, which also transpired, which also took place without you over the past 6 months. The roof, nobody asked about how many pre-bidders are there? What was the estimated cost that was put there? Why is this being done now when it was supposed to be resolved by early summer? It is no longer early summer. It was supposed to be late spring, early summer. You didn't ask for any explanation on that. You didn't ask for any details on what is the construction schedule? What is the staging plan? It's not just the neighbors on North Prospect that want to know what's going on. This is the entire downtown. This is everybody in town. And it's got to do with not only how is that going to be impacted by traffic, by moving, by dust, by everything else, but how much is this going to cost? Are you still on schedule for 24 months? Is it going to go more than that? What are the contracts with the temporary moving? What's the contracts with the temporary space, with the moving? Is that going to be in budget if you are over your schedule? And if you don't know the schedule, you don't know that. Last thing I had a million questions. Y'all are way too quiet. The stuff about the woodwork, there were, what is in the MOA talks about maybe we'll keep it if we feel like it, or if we can do it. That's the kind of thing that I think Pam was referring to. There's a bunch of things that it's been decided, but the MOA brought up 5 specific things. And I think that is what we're talking about. And Alex, you might feel good about having an MOU, but there is not a lot of trust in this process. There's not a lot of trust in this committee. And if you don't do your jobs, you're not going to build trust. So OPMs, I hope you take over these meetings more. And I hope we hear more from you about the details, because this is skimpy nonsense. This is a $50 million project. This can't be, we all turn up, we all vote en masse to approve whatever comes across our desk with a rubber stamp. Come on, guys.
Thank you, Maria. Okay, I see one other person Please bring Hetty in.
Hello, everybody. Hetty Startup North Amherst. First of all, congrats on the opening of the temporary space on University Avenue. It's great. I was one of the people who got in touch with Paul about a walkthrough. I haven't ever been involved in a project of this magnitude in terms of a historic building. But as a member of the Amherst Historical Commission, one of only 2 members at the moment, I am really intrigued about the interior woodwork, especially where the 1928 building meets the 1993 building. It seems to me a very long time since the commission, or Madeline Helmer and I, who were its representatives on the Section 106 process. It's been a very, very long time since I looked with members of the building committee or FAA or the town at that part of the project, the final architectural drawings that went out to bid. I just think that, as Pam said, it would be a goodwill gesture to have an opportunity to look at a part of the process that was a sticking point. And that's all I need to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Hetty. Thanks for coming. Okay. No other business. So it is time to adjourn. We will next meet on Monday, August 11th. Thanks to all. Good night.